Chapter 28, The Tower of the Past. The room was simple, unexpectedly austere for a place like the Tower of Lumara. Dark stone walls, a high ceiling that made every sound echo, and a narrow window too slender for anything larger than a scrawny crow to pass through. It let in only a thin thread of cold light. At the center, anchored to the floor, lay a metal ring from which extended a long, solid chain that reached the shackles on Selenia's wrists. It was a prison, yes, but not a dungeon. In one corner stood a plain wooden bed with a thin mattress. Beside it, a small table and a single chair. Nothing more, nothing less. The room held a strange balance between minimal courtesy and calculated cruelty. Selenia sat on the bed, her hands resting on her lap, gazing at the window. A brief ray of light slipped through the opening, illuminating her blue eyes, which looked more weary than wounded. She had accepted her fate with that unfathomable calm possessed only by those who have seen too much. The door opened with a dry sound. Riven entered. His figure filled the doorway with the precision of a predator who needs no overt violence to inspire fear. He wore his dark-toned armor, without a cloak, his hair pulled back. His black eyes rested briefly on Selenia before shifting away, as if confirming something already known. A young soldier of the order followed him, the crow emblem embroidered on his shoulder guard. He carried a plate of hot food, bread, a thick soup, and a piece of meat. He set it on the table without a word and left at once. Selenia offered a faint smile, the kind that never quite became submission. "Thank you," she said, not to the soldier, but to Riven. Riven closed the door with a sharp click. "I imagine this room is more comfortable than the dungeons," he remarked in a voice without edge, almost indifferent. "It's colder below, and the damp is worse." Selenia inclined her head. "I appreciate the consideration." Riven watched her for a moment, then turned his gaze to the chain and the metal base. "Don't misunderstand," he said with contained ease. "It's purely a precaution. I can keep a better watch on you here. My quarters are at the end of the corridor." Selenia released a calm breath. "That reassures me," she replied in a tone so clear the double meaning was impossible to miss. "And it makes everything perfectly clear." The silence between them tightened slightly, but not enough to become confrontation. Riven did not react. He simply turned, ready to leave the room. It was at that moment that Selenia's eyes changed. The blue grew lighter, deeper, as though an ancient light rose from a hidden corner of her spirit. It was involuntary, spontaneous, a spark of vision or memory. Though Riven did not notice, the room seemed to fade for the span of a heartbeat, and the world transformed. Sun, dust, the sound of wood striking wood. Two boys were sparring in the training yard of Elendor's main barracks. Their swords were practice blades made of hardened wood, yet they moved with surprising speed for their age. The smaller of the two, a boy with dark skin and black eyes, not yet 11, advanced with a precision that far exceeded his size. Riven. His breathing was steady, controlled, and every movement seemed calculated. He shifted lightly, leaning just enough to evade the other boy's strikes, larger, stronger, and clearly used to winning through sheer presence. Raylam. The bout did not last long. Riven arched his body to the side, avoided a blow aimed at his collarbone, and with a quick turn struck Raylam's wrist, disarming him. The older boy staggered back, startled. Before he could react, Riven had already brought the tip of his wooden sword to his chest. A clean hit, decisive. Silence. "Well done, Riven," said a deep voice. The instructor, a broad-shouldered man with a short beard, approached with firm steps. He watched the two boys with a blend of rigor and pride, then pointed at Raylam with his own wooden sword. "Raylam," the instructor said, "why do you think you lost?" The older boy rubbed his arm, slightly embarrassed. "I grew careless, master. I thought that being bigger gave me the advantage." Thorian nodded, satisfied. "Exactly. Overconfidence blinds you, and a smaller opponent is not a weaker one. Never underestimate the one in front of you, even when you think victory is assured." Riven stood still, though his eyes held a quiet gleam of satisfaction. The instructor looked at them both. "Remember this, in a real battle, a single moment of complacency can cost you your life." The boys nodded. The instructor stepped back. Very well. Rest for a few minutes before continuing. Riven set his sword aside and walked with Rollum toward the shade of a nearby stable, where they usually gathered after training. Both were sweaty, their clothes dust-stained, yet there was clear camaraderie between them. Rollum nudged Riven lightly with his shoulder, smiling. "Have you heard the rumors?" he asked. Riven shrugged. "I'm not interested in rumors. I just want to train. I'll be the best soldier King Arden has." Rollum chuckled. "Well, these rumors are about King Arden." Riven looked up despite himself. "What about him?" Rollum leaned closer, lowering his voice. "They say Queen Aloria and her son were killed." Riven felt a blow to his chest. "What? How?" Rollum took a bridle hanging nearby and wound it around his hands, uneasy. The caravan was attacked near the forests of Valdara by elves. They killed everyone, even the swordmaster escorting the queen. It took Riven a moment to process it. "Elves," he repeated, incredulous. "That's what they say. And the worst part," Rollum added, leaning in even closer, "is that the king of Valdara blames Arden, says it's his responsibility, that his daughter died because of Alendor, and it seems they want to use this as an excuse to, you know." Riven frowned. "That's absurd. The king would never have allowed something like this if he could have stopped it. The elves attacked, not Elendor." Rollum nodded. "True, but Valdara has always had problems with Elendor, and now they have the perfect excuse." Riven clenched his teeth without realizing it. He felt it as a deep, visceral injustice. Elves. Creatures not so different from the ghouls who had taken his family from him. Beings with beautiful faces hiding malice. "The king is a good man," Riven said, almost to himself. "He doesn't deserve this." Rollum did not answer. He simply watched him in silence. The dust of the stable faded. The sounds, the smells, the light all changed. Riven sat across from Master Thorian years later, still young, perhaps 13 or 14. Between them lay a regicidium board, pieces carved from bone and stone, representing kings, queens, mages, heralds, and beasts. The game advanced in tense silence. The instructor moved a piece calmly, as though there were no hurry to reach the end. "The kingdom is entering conflict," he said quietly, "and not everyone is ready for what it will bring." Riven studied the board, the piece Thorian had moved, his own options. His eyes moved quickly. His hands were barely tense. "You always say that," he replied, "and I trained to be ready." The instructor smiled faintly. "You are intelligent, Riven, and you have strong instincts, but that is not enough. A soldier who acts without anticipating the enemy's move is a soldier who dies quickly." Riven lifted his gaze. "I will be the most loyal and the finest soldier of His Majesty." The instructor studied him for a moment, head tilted. "Perhaps you will," he said honestly, "but that day is not today." He moved a piece, a rook, straight into the right flank of Riven's board. "I win," he declared. Riven looked at the board with a mix of frustration and respect. The instructor did what he always did, gave him a gentle pat on the shoulder. "Do not forget this. Strength without vision is nothing but noise." Selenia's eyes blinked. The stone chamber reformed around her as though slowly emerging from mist. The light from the window returned. The smell of damp returned, and Riven stood there, one step from the exit, unaware that she had just seen a fragment of the shadow that had shaped him. Selenia watched him. She saw the man he was now, and the child he had once been. Riven opened the door. "Rest," he said, without emotion. "I'll need you lucid when what comes next begins." He did not wait for a reply. He would not have received one. The door closed behind him with a firm sound. The bolt slid into place. Selenia exhaled slowly. She was alone beneath the broken tower, with the echo of a past that was not her own, but that she now knew. And she understood, with a sorrowful certainty, that the path to helping Liana and the bearer of the mark first led through the darkness that had formed in that black-eyed boy. The same boy who was now her captor, the same one helping to unleash a war he did not fully understand. Night was drawing near, and the Tower of Lumara seemed to listen to everything. For in the stillness of the tower, Understanding of what was yet to come had begun to awaken.